to Once Upon a Software.
I had the worst day. The traffic was horrible. People at the coffee shop were like the slowest ever. I was late for my meeting, so I just came home and I was a mess and I needed another cup of coffee. But how was your day so far?
Definitely better than yours. Traffic is generally annoying.
I'm usually a lot more patient and, I have my Zen mood on, but today it was, bad karma, how they call it.
I guess all the slow people were there around you, maybe because you were late for a meeting and they couldn't move faster or somehow teleport themselves somewhere else, not being around you when you were late for a meeting.
Yeah, well, actually, I was a bit in a hurry and I was late. I woke up late. And in a way, it did felt better to be able to have someone to blame. I could blame it on the slow people in traffic or the slow barista, but yeah, it was a mixture of everything.
Everything was against you, or almost everything, even yourself. This reminds me of a delivery we had the other week when very close to the deadline when the delivery was supposed to happen. We found a defect, and what I noticed was a very similar pattern. Who exactly is at fault for everything that doesn't work here? Whoever didn't check for the bug, whoever didn't code it well enough, whoever didn't get the specs in time, and so on and so forth. And then I'm blaming myself because I missed this. Exactly the process you described.
But in my mind, it's like a snowball. Whenever there's a process that involves more than one team, maybe 3-4 steps of the process, if the first ones are a bit late, that delay shifts to the next phase. And if they're a bit late, then the other ones have even less time to fix their problem or to solve the situation. And finally, let's call it like the fourth step, let's call it the final one. They have so little time, then even if they do their job perfectly, they could still be late in delivery. It's like a snowball in my head. I've seen this happen in different companies. They were close to the production line, so they were more like physical delivery, but maybe the process is the same whenever there are more people involved. I don't know how it's in your case. How did you fix it?
It's not necessarily about fixing it, but it is the process in between. We develop in various phases, and first we get the requirements, then we develop, then we test, and you cannot test until you actually have something developed. You can do other testing and so on and so forth. So if someone delays, you are at this stage, right, where you won't be able to deliver because you have a defect. And then the environment is not stable enough because, I don't know, some other team is deploying I don't know what, and some of the tools you want to use, they are not working properly at the time. The first approach, more often than not, is to find someone responsible, right? The developer, test engineer, the analyst, the product owner, the other team. They don't have their things working right. If they did, I would accomplish everything. And in any other situation, we would deal with things differently. But since we are in this particular one, let's see how we deal with these things. Blaming others, even thinking about who is to blame, that's where the problem starts. It's a waste of time.
Like, even if you just found out the person responsible and you are right to put the blame on them, that doesn't change the fact that you are where you are, like you said. It doesn't change the current status of the process and the fact that you need to focus on moving along and see what to do next.
I'm not saying it's not important to learn from that situation. But first, you need to deal with it, and then you can learn from it, right?
Yeah.
So you have to get to the meeting first, and then you can learn you can learn whatever you need to do differently, setting your alarm clock earlier, or I don't know, taking a different route, or having a different barista, or whatever else. But that only helps afterwards.
I mean, I always take criticism so bad, and if this constructive criticism becomes like a blaming game, I'm like, I get very defensive, and I was like, I'm not cool about it.
I can say for a fact, most of the time I'm not actually very cool about it in my mind. At some stage I worked on a piece of code for, I don't know exactly what it was doing, and the entire product I was working on had some issues. Something was failing when they were trying to deploy it, and they asked me, you did the last change there, you broke it. Oh well, that can happen. In that particular case, it wasn't what I did. The problem, it was an external library. It was referenced, it was changed, and the code, the project I was working on was using that. So I didn't actually break it, but still, well, it would have been possible, right? That's the first thing you look for, who worked last on that code. But their attitude with blaming me wasn't necessarily the one to put me in the best state of mind.
Exactly. It brings the worst in you, and it makes you cooperate less and want to solve the things less, because to me, it's more than finding the responsible. It brings a personal touch to the whole matter. It's like, so why you made the mistake, and are you incompetent? It's doubting your skill, your personality, your place in the company, everything. It can go berserk. But even if it's my fault, I always appreciate it when somebody who realized that I made a mistake dealt with it with cautious and with a certain gentleness towards my feelings.
When someone blames you, you get into that state of mind where you make it personal. You think, okay, I made a mistake. This means in my mind, I'm not okay. I'm not good enough. I'm not a decent professional. I have no idea what I'm talking about here. But if you look at the situation a little bit differently, when someone blames you and they would just mention the facts. Look, this code, this application cannot be deployed, doesn't work, it fails for some reason, right? It looks like it has a defect. You worked last on this. Can you investigate? That is about the application, about the service. That's not about you. It's a different approach than you broke it. When I'm blamed, I'm making them personal anyway. When I made a mistake, actually, I'm making them personal anyway. That's one aspect. And then there is the other aspect, when we are blaming, when I am blaming someone for whatever doesn't work, right? Why doesn't this work? Who broke it? That's a waste of time, waste of energy, and more important, it will never get me to a solution to get past the point where I have a problem. Whoever I interact with, they will feel I'm blaming them. So then I will mess up their state of mind. I would make them less productive, even for 5 minutes. More often than not, that person is less productive and less creative for a lot longer. And I'm in the state of mind where I'm looking for people to blame, and I'm already scared because I'm just looking for a way out. And I'm not solving the problem either, because I'm not in the state of mind where I can create a solution for whatever happened there.
everything is tense in your mind, in the office, in the company. It's like everyone is trying to save their like reputation, their emotions, their personal calmness. Yeah.
And everybody becomes just reactive. So how we deal with that? Since we already discussed, I would say proven, beyond reasonable doubt, that this thinking is not particularly helpful. Obviously, we have to go a different way, right? How would we go differently when we are late for a meeting and everybody is slow in traffic and the barista is so slow making the coffee?
It was a silly article about how can you rephrase things in a warmer way, let's call it, to create a better atmosphere at work. And it was one suggestion that I really took to heart. And it gave the example of people being late and how when you apologize, I'm sorry for being late, the other one, in a way, they feel obliged to forgive you. What can you say? It's not like they can stone you to death because you are late. And if you change the paradigm and say, thank you for waiting for me, thank you for being patient, thank you for your kindness. And I was like, oh, that's a really nice thing to, turn over the same situation. Because I never thought that saying sorry is not enough. You say, oh, sorry for being late, sorry for taking so long, sorry. But when you say thank you, it's like you're giving something back and you're honoring that person. And it's not just excusing your own mistake and not making everything about you. Things are not for granted, and someone being nice to you deserves to be acknowledged.
I think in a similar way, we could approach not being able to deliver in time. Yeah, dealing with the problem where you can't really deliver in time because you still have a defect. And so first of all would be to just describe maybe bullet points, or that works in my case. Maybe you want to add more facts about how easy it is to discover that defect, or how easy it is, how much it impacts the product, the customers using, the clients using the product. How much, if the functionality where the defect occurred, it's really relevant in production right now. Or gather all the facts, how relevant it is to have the solution in place right now, the delivery in place right now. And once you have all the facts, you take the emotions out of it. Just making the list of facts. Now, I could say, take yourself out of that. But it doesn't work that easy. I mean, I go and get a coffee, but more often than not, it helps because I take a break and I get a coffee with that particular thought in mind. I need to disconnect from this. And I found that the more efficient solution is to go straight to the source and make a list of the facts, right? And then when you have the facts, your mind already gets in that creative state and you can find solutions. Now, this is funny. More often than not, the problem is not an actual problem, but the emotions made it more of a problem than it actually is.
So it's an interesting exercise to detach yourself of the situation and to be objective about, okay, what's the impact? Because the problem is only as big as the impact.
The list is also relevant if you need to find a solution, and you can use it to explain why exactly you need to deliver later, why you need to add additional time to the delivery, or exclude the functionality, or just deliver with the defect, depending on the situation. And that is very, very dependent on the product, on the clients, and all that. I don't really have a general solution for that. It also helps you guide the discussion further with stakeholders or with additional teams which might be able to support you in achieving a delivery. So having the list just to disconnect from the emotional part of things proves to be very useful in a lot of different ways. Going back to the example to being late to a meeting, when you notice you'll be late, right? You wake up late first, right? So then you kind of start to notice that you might be late. You might go down the emotional path and hurry and find everyone slow and no one being able to satisfy your needs, and being late to the meeting and having the meeting not as pleasant as it could be. Or you can just call the person and ask them, look, is it okay if we push it back like 15 minutes so I can actually get there in time?
So what you're saying is that the first thing one needs to do is to detach a bit, to get less emotionally involved and to gather all the facts, and then to see the real impact, and if he needs to apologize, buy time, ask for help to fix the situation, basically to evaluate what needs to be done, what's the real issue.
Yeah, that's certainly right. Disconnecting from the emotional part of ourselves, it's something that we read nearly everywhere this day and age. Yeah, you have to disconnect. You have to look at things clearly. Yeah, right. That sounds adorable, but I'm not just saying detach the emotional part from the emotional part. We are specific about at least the way that's proven to work of how you can disconnect from the emotional part, just to get a clear picture of what exactly is the problem, if there is one. We hope you enjoy our discussions, our little talks here, and see you on the next episode.
We really want to bring value in your life, even if it's like real life scenarios or company culture and things you deal with it within your company. See you soon.